Unfortunately, by the divine intervention of a dark god, my Radiant Dawn save file was corrupted and all my progress in part 1 was completely lost. Because of this particular setback, I gave up on Iron Maning the game and decided to continue the rest of the playthrough without these restrictions. Because save file corruption in Radiant Dawn basically never happens, I had not thought to make save states or backups, so I had to start from the beginning once again. I executed the same strategy as my previous run, and I leveled Laura to her tier 3 level cap. This time, Laura still wound up capping most of her stats, but notably had much higher resistance. I was able to significantly increase the speed of the playthrough, this time completing all of part 1 and the Laura grind in only 2.5 hours. With this, my file was in roughly the same state as it was before I lost all my data. And so we finally enter part 2 of Radiant Dawn, which is a segment of the game with very little replay value, whose only saving grace is that many of the maps have fast cheese strategies. Part 2 is a perspective shift side story where you cannot use any of your part 1 units, and hilariously most of the time you don't even get to use any of your new part 2 units either. Makes all of the maps have restrictive preset deployments. It is surprisingly difficult to actually train characters in this part, and there's not much you can even do to make a long-term impact going forward. In the part 2 prologue of Radiant Dawn, Queen Elincia of Crimea struggles with court politics after the events of the previous game and retreats into the sky to clear her head. There, she stumbles on a patrol of Benyan Wyvern Knights who are intruding on Crimean airspace, so Elincia decides to partake in a little diplomatic incident. You know, as a treat. This is an 8-turn survive map where we get a completely preset army with no possible variation, which is the overarching theme of part 2. Here we get Elincia, who is only present in 2 out of the 5 chapters of her own story, and Marcia, who has some of the best part 2 availability by being in 3 chapters. We also had to defend 2 bird lagoos, namely Nealuchi, who was old, and Lian, who speaks in Wingdings, the official language of the Heron tribe. This map is pretty trivial to complete and rather boring because there's just not that much to do. The enemies are so low level that Marcia is the only character that can actually gain any XP, but even then you don't have much time to do that. A few turns in, we can recruit Har, who is an amazing unit because for some silly reason, Vipers are not weak to bows in this game. I have Har quickly sweep up the rest of the map, making sure to take out the boss to get the only loot, a short axe, whose diminutive nature is clearly an allusion to how little impact this entire part has on the broader campaign. After sating her thirst for violence, Elincia learns that the Herons are looking for Ike, who, as of 6 months ago, has disappeared and abandoned all of his responsibilities to become a wandering vagrant.